Keir Starmer decided to make tools the theme of his first major, and I guess by major I mean long, very long, but it was his first major address to a Labour Party conference, at least in person and as leader. But in the end, the only tool ended up being the leader of no opposition himself. And not just for droning on for 90 minutes, 90 long minutes with various cliches, a hell of a lot of bluster and ample doses of faux emotion. But the real reason I think Keir was a tool today was because of his personal attacks on the Prime Minister and his family. A Prime Minister whose sister revealed had buried his recently deceased mother just 2 days ago. But that didn't stop Keir. No surprise, given Labour is now unashamedly the country's nasty party. After his deputy, Angela Rayner, branded Tories scum earlier in the conference for a cheap laugh, this was Mr Starmer's effort.
My dad was a tool maker. Although, in a way, so was Boris Johnson's.
It's interesting he invoked his father throughout the speech, given that in June this year, in an ITV interview with Piers Morgan, he spoke of his very strained relationship with the man who he criticised for having real difficulty expressing his emotions. But he has the cheek to criticise Boris Johnson's dad, Stanley, actually a regular member of my superstar panel, despite the fact the PM has retained a good relationship with him. After calling him a tool, Keir Starmer's personal attack on Boris continued.
I don't think Boris Johnson is a bad man. I think he's a trivial man. I think he's a showman.
Irony is not lost on Starmer either, it seems. First, he roasted the Tories for exploiting the culture war.
If you look past the Tories' pathetic attempts to divide us in a culture war, you can glimpse a tolerant, progressive nation of which we can all be proud.
Then, literally, just a few sentences later, he says this.
When Rashford and the England team took the knee to highlight and condemn the racism that they had had to endure, the Home Secretary encouraged people to boo. Well, in this conference hall, we are patriots.
If that's not stoking the culture war, Mr Starmer, then I don't know what is. Former Labour MP Laura Pidcock gave a scathing analysis straight after the speech, telling the BBC she thought it was quite uninspiring. And as a heckler at Brighton pointed out today, folk like me will not forget Starmer's policy on Brexit, a policy designed to overturn the biggest democratic vote in our history. But you know on this show, I'm fair. And there was a moment that brought me real delight. Starmer committed Labour to being the party of the Union. That's significant, in my opinion, given the only hope of achieving power again in the medium term for Labour will most likely mean some form of coalition with the SNP. Have a look.
Believe in the union of the nations on these islands. But we have a cavalier government that's placing it in peril. Scotland is in the unfortunate position of having too bad government.
But this wasn't a good week for Labour overall, and they are no closer to delivering on their promise of becoming an effective opposition. Do you know what? I think these conferences are gross, actually. The schmoozing and champagne socialism that goes on behind the scenes is actually bad news for democracy. As you've probably learned over the past year, most Westminster journalists are in the tank for the very people they are writing about. And nothing sums that up better than this video last night of the Daily Mirror's political editor, Pippa Carrera, on stage cheerfully singing karaoke with Keir Starmer's rivals, Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham. They're all pals, folks. That's the establishment right there. Question, How on earth can that woman on stage be expected to accurately report on those politicians she's singing karaoke with? Answer, she can't and she won't. The political and media elite in this country are corrupt insiders. How much longer are we going to put up with the Insulate Britain eco-terrorists? Surely this isn't going to become like the illegal migrant crisis in the Channel, where the Home Secretary Priti Patel says all the right things about getting tough on these dangerous criminals, but then fails to deliver any actual law and order. The health and safety of the public remains at risk for every day that these utter lunatics continue to glue themselves to the M25. Lives are now being put at risk on a daily basis. Stop them now, Home Secretary. And it had to happen, didn't it? The woke mob are coming for our bonfires. A traditional Guy Fawkes event hosted by the Dulwich Sports Club in a woke-topian neighbourhood of south-east London have axed the bonfire and banned sparklers. Instead, wait for this, they're going to have a giant TV showing a blaze. Organisers say it's better for the environment. An advert for the display reads, "This year, the event is going green with an eco-friendly virtual bonfire on the big screen." And not surprisingly, guess who's backing this? Labour, of course. The local councillor, Richard Leeming, says to The Sun, "The idea sounds interesting, and I hope everyone in attendance has a fun evening. Dulwich is home to innovation, so it doesn't surprise me that this will be a first." Well, I say the woke are fast becoming Britain's fun police.